Hi, I'm the Doll, and in today's video I'm going to look into some interesting parallels between Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts. More specifically, I'm going to look into whether Voldemort somehow could be an Obscurial. First things first, this video contains spoilers for both Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, both books and movies. There are a few theories out there asking whether Voldemort somehow could be an Obscurial. However, the one I am presenting to you today is my own, and I haven't seen anything quite like this one. Just yet, at least. So this theory hit me when I was watching Fantastic Beasts for the third time. My theory is that Tom Riddle, or Lord Voldemort as we know him, in his research of dark magic, somehow found a way to either create or summon an Obscurus. And the important part is that he himself was not an Obscurial. He did not oppress his magic, therefore he did not become an Obscurial. But what if he somehow found out how to create or summon an Obscurus later on, and then found out how to control it? And this is the key word in my theory: control it. Because we know Credence could partially control his Obscurus in Fantastic Beasts. And I think Voldemort perfected that. The main logic behind my theory is that Lord Voldemort possesses a power that only one other wizard is known to have in the books. And that is the power to fly without the need of a broomstick, thestral, or other creatures or enchanted items. Voldemort could fly unsupported whenever he wanted to, and that is really cool, but really rare even in the wizarding world. And I want to read to you from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows and tell you, how this is described in the book, because it is significant to my theory. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I'm going to read to you from page 56. Harry felt the bike drop a little, though the lights down on the ground still seemed remote as stars. Then the scar on his forehead burned like fire as a Death Eater appeared on either side of the bike. 2 killing curses missed Harry by millimeters, cast from behind. And then Harry saw him. Voldemort was flying like smoke on the wind, without broomstick or thestral to hold him, his snake-like face gleaming out of the blackness, his white fingers raising his wand again. And here's the thing, note how Voldemort is described here. Like smoke on the wind. Like smoke on the wind. And then think of Credence. When he loses control and his Obscurus goes wild, look how it looks. It's very smoky, isn't it? We don't know why Voldemort could fly. And as I said, this is a rare thing, even in the wizarding world. There's only one other wizard mentioned to do this. And that also happens in the Deathly Hallows book. So I'll read that part as well. And this is after Harry and Luna has been to the Ravenclaw common room. And they met Professor McGonagall and Severus Snape. When Harry looked up again, Snape was in full flight. McGonagall, Flitwick and Sprout all thundering after him. Snape hurtled through a classroom door, and moments later Harry heard McGonagall cry, "Coward! Coward!" What's happened? What's happened?" asked Luna. Harry dragged her to her feet and raced along the corridor, trailing the invisibility cloak behind them, into the deserted classroom where Professor McGonagall, Flitwick and Sprout were just standing at a smashed window. "He jumped," said Professor McGonagall as Harry and Luna ran into the room. "You mean he's dead?" Harry sprinted to the window, ignoring Flitwick and Sprout's yells of shock at his sudden appearance. "No, he's not dead," said McGonagall bitterly. "Unlike Dumbledore, he was still carrying a wand, and he seems to have learned a few tricks from his master." With a tingle of horror, Harry saw in the distance a huge bat-like shape flying through the darkness towards the perimeter wall. That's the only other time we've heard of a wizard flying without the means of, like, a broomstick or a thestral or a hippogriff or a phoenix, something to keep them in the air. So there's a couple of possibilities here. Given the hint of a bat shape, one could wonder whether Snape wasn't an Animagus and could turn into a giant bat. It's possible. The other thing is that Voldemort could have shared his secrets with Snape. But this still leaves the question of how exactly Voldemort can fly without a broomstick. And that brings me back to my theory about Voldemort somehow channeling the powers of an Obscurus. In Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, we learn some remarkable things about Obscurus and Obscurials. I will now read from the screenplay the scene where we learn the most about Obscurus. Scene 61. Int. Mercusor cell. Day. Newt, Tina and Jacob sitting, Newt with his head in his hands, still in utter despair about his creatures. Finally, Tina, on the verge of tears, breaks the silence. "Tina, I'm so sorry about your creatures, Mr. Scamander. I truly am." Newt remains silent. Jacob, sort of voice to Tina. "Can someone please tell me what this Obscurial Obscurius thing is? Please?" Tina, also sort of voice. "There hasn't been one for centuries." Newt. "I met one in Sudan 3 months ago. There used to be more of them, but they still exist. Before wizards went underground, when we were still being hunted by muggles, young wizards and witches sometimes tried to suppress their magic to avoid persecution. Instead of learning to harness or to control their powers, they developed what was called an Obscurus." Tina, off Jacob's confusion. "It's an unstable, uncontrollable dark force that busts out and attacks, and then vanishes." As she talks, we see the penny dropping, and Obscurus fits everything she knows about the perpetrator of the New York attacks. Tina to Newt. "Obscurials can't survive long, can they?" Newt. "There's no documented case of any Obscurial surviving past the age of 10. The one I met in Africa, she was 8 when she died." Jacob. "What are you telling me? That the Senator Shaw was killed by a kid?" Newt's look says yes. Notice what Tina says about the Obscurus being an unstable and uncontrollable dark force. But as displayed later in the film, we learn that this isn't necessarily the case. Obscuruses can be controlled, at least to some degree. Credence is the proof of that. He does have control of his Obscurus, at least to some degree. Also notice the movement of Credence in his Obscurus shape thingy. Notice how everything's smoky and stuff. But if you look really, really close, you can actually see Credence's face hidden in all that smoke. Now let's take a look at the Flying Lord Voldemort. Isn't it much the same? I mean, except for the fact that Credence is almost hidden in all the smoke, but Lord Voldemort is much clearer. Except from that, the similarities are very, very much there. I believe that Lord Voldemort somehow came across some information about this unstable dark force that is an Obscurus, and I believe he was intrigued by that, and I believe he studied and somehow in the end found out how to either create an Obscurus or summon an existing Obscurus, and then somehow control it. I believe he would want to do that for his own advantage on his quest to cleanse the world. But could he also use it personally somehow to fly? I think that's the case. And then in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, the movie, there's this very important detail that did not happen in the book. And it's made so many fans so angry, including myself. It's Lord Voldemort's death and how he just dissolves. But not as after Credence is attacked and apparently dies, or at least, well, he's no longer there. But notice how he dissolves the same way that Lord Voldemort did in Deathly Hallows Part 2. It's eerie how similar that is. But could that be purposefully done? Could J.K. Rowling have instructed the makers of Deathly Hallows Part 2 to do the death scene the way it was done? And could she have done this because she wanted to imply that there's something more than Horcruxes and Hallows that is part of Voldemort? What if Rowling decided that Lord Voldemort is somehow an Obscurial, or partly an Obscurial, or somehow controls an Obscurus, and she wants to make us aware of it in some way? What if that's why the death scene is as it is in the book? Sorry, in the movie. Well, obviously I am not J.K. Rowling. I did not create this wonderful wizarding world. But that does not stop me from speculating, and I don't know if my theory is any good. There could easily be some detail out there that I missed. Something that's, passed me by. But I don't mind that. If there's something, please make me aware of it. I don't necessarily think my theory is any good as far as the story goes, but I don't think it's bad either. I'm a bit like 50-50 on this whole thing, Voldemort being an Obscurial. I don't know. But there are some eerie similarities between Voldemort and Credence. But as I said, I won't be disappointed if someone breaks my theory down and just smash it into pieces with some solid arguments. In fact, I think that would be awesome. And I really want to hear your thoughts about this theory. Whether you support it, whether you have some details that I missed, please put them in the comments down below. Also, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a great deal, and I'll be super happy if you do that. But until next time, goodbye.